At breakfast on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
9 minutes before 8 is the time. We'll talk more about restrictions with Darren in a moment or two. But let's come to the conversation that we're going to have about Channel 4 and obviously take your calls on that as well. And I have to smile because having been in this business as long as I have, and indeed having been on The Sun, I think that I've written a few times there's a massive shake-up of the landscape of British television. We read again that we've had quite a few shake-ups down the years, but this apparently is the latest. After 4 decades, Channel 4 as a public-owned broadcaster could be about to come to an end as it's put up for sale. But why? Why would they want to? Let's turn to Conservative MP and Minister of State for Media and Data, John Whittingdale, who joins me now. Morning, Minister. Why do you want to do this?
Good morning.
Morning.
Well, Channel 4 has been a great success. I mean, it was created to provide an alternative viewpoint, distinctive content, and it has succeeded in that. But as you've just said, the world is changing very fast. We've seen a dramatic increase in the number of providers of TV content with people like Amazon and Netflix and Sky and Apple and Disney all coming on. And that is going to put quite significant pressure on the model of Channel 4. At the moment, it's entirely dependent on advertising revenue. It gets no public money. And if its market share falls because of the competition, that model becomes increasingly hard to sustain. So we think it's the right time to consider whether there isn't a better model to make sure that Channel 4 continues to thrive into the future.
But isn't there also the argument, Mr. Whittingdale, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and you've just lauded its success? There's no indication that it is going to dip, is there?
Well, I mean, I think that over the longer term, a lot of people think that it will be very difficult to sustain this model. There is no question that the strength of competition. We've already seen, particularly younger people, turning away from traditional broadcasters and spending more and more time on the streaming services, and the amount of money that they are able to put into their content, the amount that Netflix spends or Amazon spends on TV content is far higher than the traditional broadcasters, and as a result they've been winning a lot of viewers with great programs. So in order to be able to continue to survive in that environment, we think that there may well be a case for allowing Channel 4 to have an alternative model which could give it access to the kind of investment needed in order to continue to compete.
Give me the names of some of those great programmes you just referenced, Minister.
Well, I mean, if it, on Netflix.
No, Channel 4. What do you watch? What do you watch like on Channel 4, Mr. Whittingdale?
Well, I mean, to give you an example, I mean, which was an award winner, I did think It's a Sin was a great drama and actually was very much what Channel 4 is about. It's about alternative programming.
39 years of broadcasting and a 4-week serial, It's a Sin. That's the best we got, is it, Mr. Whittingdale?
No, it's not the best at all.
What else do we have, sir?
It's a more recent example. But, I mean, Channel 4 takes on now big programmes like It's a Quiet Bake Off, it does Gogglebox. Channel 4 News is certainly distinctive.
That's one word for it, Mr. Whittingdale.
To others.
Okay.
So it does have a special place, and we don't want to damage that. We want to sustain that.
John, if I may call you that.
Of course.
Well, that's very kind. Sir David Attenborough was once the most trusted man in Britain. He says of your plans, not your personal, your government's plans, they're short-sighted political and financial attacks. John Whittingdale.
Well, I'm a huge admirer of David Attenborough, but I don't agree with him on that. It's actually about trying to sustain Channel 4, not undermine it. And it is exactly because of the pressure that we think is going to be on Channel 4's finances. And indeed, across the board, we're trying to strengthen public service broadcasting. One of the other areas where we're considering change is to try and ensure that the BBC, Channel 4, ITV, Channel 5 still remain at the top of the guide. It's people can find them easily, and that's this issue of prominence, because there is a risk now that they'll get lost amongst all these other channels. So there are a variety of measures that we're going to be looking at to strengthen our public service broadcasting system.
Lastly on this, John, should you be nervous it might fall into the hands of an overseas company, Rupert Murdoch or the Discovery Channel?
Well, we will look at the alternatives. We'll be interested to hear from anybody who expresses interest. I mean, I would just point to Channel 5, which used to be under British ownership and frankly did struggle a bit. It was then acquired by Viacom, which is a US company, and since then they have put a lot of money in. They've made some great programs, and its market share has gone up. So I think overseas ownership in itself is not necessarily a bad thing. It could actually help because it will open up access to the kind of investment. But there's a range of possibilities. This is a consultation, so we haven't reached any final decision yet.
OK, as if your department isn't busy enough, also football, I understand, will fall under your remit to a point. And these idea of bubbles, 2,500 VIPs per match as we move to the more exciting knockout stages coming into this country. How are you going to keep them all in a bubble?
Well, I mean, I should correct you. I'm not responsible for football, but nevertheless, you're absolutely right. I'm a DCMS minister.
The department you're in is, though, is it not?
Indeed, absolutely right. And I was lucky enough to be at Wembley last night.
Then you can definitely cop a few questions on this, John. Right, these bloody bubbles are a load of footballs, aren't they? They're not going to work, Mr. Whittingdale.
Well, we are slowly moving to relax the restrictions. So last night, for instance, we allowed 20,000 people to attend at Wembley, subject to proof that they'd either have vaccinations or negative tests. We're going to expand that number for the semi-finals. It will go up to 60,000, still subject to those requirements of demonstration that people are not positively tested. And we are.
But how are you going to keep 2,500 VIPs from Hungary or from Italy in a bubble?
Well, if they come here, and we haven't reached any final decision about numbers, we are talking to UEFA about allowing VIPs or people associated with the teams to attend, but they won't just be allowed to sort of roam around Britain freely. I mean, they will be coming in to attend a match. They'll be having to stay in a designated place, go to the match, go home again. So, I mean, there will still be restrictions, but we are in the position where we are able to slowly relax. As I say, we're going to significantly increase, by 3 times the number of people able to attend those matches.
But you can dance around in Wembley with total strangers, but you can't dance at your daughter's wedding. Or indeed, you still restrict the numbers at funerals. It's not joined-up thinking, is it, Mr. Whittingdale?
No, I completely understand people's frustration, and I want people to be able to dance around at weddings and go to the theatre as much as anybody else. But this is a careful programme. We've identified specific events where we've allowed people to attend in greater numbers in order to test that it is safe. That was what last night was about. It was what some of our earlier events, like the snooker finals, were about. And so far, the evidence is very encouraging, and that it is on that basis that we've been able to move to make further relaxation.
It is a heartbreaker for people with weddings planned. You do accept that?
Yeah.
That they look at the TV and they can't work it out.
We've made some relaxations specifically for weddings, as you know, in June, and I very much hope that come July the 19th we'll be able to remove a lot of these restrictions and people will be able to go back to these things. But we have to move cautiously.
All right. And lastly, was there a real threat, or how real was the threat, that the UEFA could have moved the games to Rome or to Budapest, and that, I read, was the concern of the government? How real was that?
Well, we are not going to do anything to put public health at risk, but on the other hand, we completely understand, we want to host the semi-finals in this country and maybe have a final, and, very much hope that England will be playing in those matches, and people will be able to go and watch them do so. But, that is an ongoing discussion. We are very hopeful that we can hold these events at Wembley, but, as I say, we're not going to do anything that will put at risk the amazing progress that we've made over the last year.
And I know you want Wales to progress as well. I know you want to say that.
Absolutely.
I want to make sure next time you cross the Severn Bridge or whatever it is, I want you to be absolutely welcomed with open arms. Lastly, 5 years ago today, you might recall, I'm sure you do, it was Brexit Day. How will you remember Brexit 5 years on? John Whittingdale.
I remember Brexit Day it was something I campaigned for, as you know, during the course of the referendum. So I was both delighted by the result and also, I have to say, amazed. I don't think anybody expected that there would be a vote to leave, but I thought it was the right decision to take. And I can say to you, Nick, 5 years later, I still believe it was the right decision to take.
Always good speaking with you, John. Thank you for your time. John Whittingdale, Minister of State for Media and Data, appearing here on LBC, where at 8 o'clock news is next with Simon Conway.